So, we're going to start by talking about some of the main places to mint your NFT. Probably the best known one is OpenSea, and they have just got a massive amount of traffic on there. They use the Ethereum blockchain, and a part of your gas fees or how much it's going to cost to mint your NFT depends on which token you use. So OpenSea is kind of the big gorilla in the room. They're the best known, and they charge gas fees like most of them do. Bakery Swap is an automated market maker, and it's a DEX, also a decentralized exchange. And this is on Binance. It uses a native Bakery Swap token, which is Bake, B-A-K-E, and it's a multifunctional crypto hub which gives you an option of a number of decentralized services, decentralized finance services or DeFi services, as well as a crypto launchpad for NFTs. So if you're looking to engage in both DeFi and NFTs together, this might be a good spot for you. Wearable is a community-owned, art-focused exchange, and they offer sneak peeks. That's one of the cool things that they do. So you can show bits of your art or movie or music and give people a taste of what it's going to be like, with the understanding that you don't get to see the final piece unless you buy it. So Foundation, their claim to fame is that they offer 10% for artists on each sale, the first one and each subsequent resale. So it's interesting. That's another thing that you really want to look at when you're picking an exchange is, how is the commission structured, and do I get to come along with all of them, or do I just get paid out the first time? The Nifty Gateway is also one of the largest places. This is where the Beeple NFT sold for $69 million is on this exchange. It's really well known, and they have a lot of traffic. And now traffic is another thing to consider, because if you have something on a marketplace that is, maybe you minted it for very little money or free, but nobody goes there, that could be an issue for your sale. Now, if you're somebody who has a massive following already and you feel confident that you're going to get your people onto this exchange, the idea of the traffic of the exchange is way less important. But if you're new, you don't bring a huge audience with you, that's something to consider. Now, we also recently talked about different techniques you can use to market your NFT once you've created it. So it's important before you pick your exchange that you think all the way through to the end. How am I going to get people to this, and how am I going to sell this thing? Some other ones. Engine. Known Origin is a market where you can collect rare digital artwork. That's really their claim to fame. Sorry. Super Rare is really focused on unique single edition digital artworks, and their exchange is curated, so you have to be invited to be on their exchange, which is cool if you are one of the artists who is invited. But obviously, if you're not invited, then that exchange isn't going to work for you. Atomic Market is a shared liquidity NFT market smart contract that's used by multiple websites. So shared liquidity means that everything listed on one market also shows on all the other markets. And Known Origin is a market, again, focused on rare digital artwork. And finally, we have Mintable, which is free, but again, you have to take certain things into account. So you can create an NFT on Mintable with zero upfront fees, zero gas fees. But there is a process that makes the sales a little more complicated, because everyone that is interested in your NFT will have to register first with Mintable in order to buy your NFT. It's not automatically done through the wallet like MetaMask, like it is with a lot of other exchanges. So those are some of the things that you have to look at. I'm going to stop right now and invite you guys to ask any questions you have so far.
I have one.
Go ahead, Mariana.
So there are many components to getting this, kind of done the first time around.
Mm-hmm.
One, you have to pick the marketplace. And two, how do you know when you're picking this marketplace, how much is it going to cost you to actually sell it on that marketplace? How do you go about that right away?
Frankly, you don't know a lot of times how much it's ultimately going to cost you, because in some cases it has to do with the volume and how much is trading that day. And in some cases, it's not very clear. None of the marketplaces are super upfront about how much these things are going to cost. Basically, I've been hearing, based on anecdotal evidence, that it's usually somewhere between $30 to $100 to mint an NFT. So this is something that you really want to take into account. And for this reason, maybe for your first NFT, uh, Mintable is a great option for you, at least until you get your feet under you. But the question isn't always obvious up front how much it's going to cost. Yuri, you had something to ask or to say? Are you there, Yuri?
Yeah. Thank you, Jeanette, for this really interesting review. And talking about this, well, minting of the gas prices and stuff, I have this question. I've been looking around like on DappRadar and websites like that, and it looks like apart from Ethereum, there are like a couple of other platforms. Like here on ClubHouse, many artists, like photographers and musicians, they seem to use Tezos blockchain. Yeah, like
Right.
not. And also there is like this Vax blockchain that is on DappRadar. It comes second with about half amount of users that of Ethereum. And I
Mm-hmm.
understand that Tezos and Vax, basically you don't have this gas fee there like nearly at all. It's much more affordable. But I also understand that of course the Ethereum is where the like majority of most important events kind of happen. So how when you just starting with those like with your first NFTs and what do you think? What blockchain you should choose to start? Thank you.
Sure. So the question here, this is a really vital question. And like I said, for me, it seems like the biggest factor in answering this is how many people can you bring with you? If you have a following of 100,000 people, if you have a following of 1 million people, you can feel fairly certain that even a chain that, even a marketplace that doesn't have a massive amount of viewers, you can still bring some of your own over. So there's that part of it. Like OpenSea has the most participants. So if you really just want to get in front of a lot of people, OpenSea is a great place to do that. Now, of course, OpenSea is also very crowded. So you may not stand out so much there. But the other issue is how much you want to spend to get ready and how comfortable your buyer is likely to be. If you have buyers in your group that are very advanced blockchain users, they may be comfortable using one of these other marketplaces. Whereas people who are less involved and do less work in this space tend to be more comfortable on OpenSea with Ethereum. So it's really, there is no one right answer. It's a delicate balancing act between the simplicity of the process, the amount of people that you're going to bring with you, and the comfort that your potential buyer is going to have with your product. So, just as an example, It's not that hard to get your product into a boutique in the neighborhood, right? You just go talk to the guy, and the guy says, "Yeah, I'll carry your product." Whereas getting your product in Walmart is very, very hard. And you're going to pay Walmart a lot of money for the opportunity to have your product be in Walmart, but your sales opportunities are much, much larger. So it's really kind of that kind of sales mentality you have to put into this question.
That's
Did
a
that answer it?
brilliant example. Brilliant. Thank you. Now I really get this difference. Like really, like you can pay like a little or nothing, but also you have little exposure, or you can pay like a lot, but then you have your chances are much higher. But again, only if you will be visible in this huge, huge like Walmart thing, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
You're so welcome. Divyanish, I'm sorry, I might not be saying your name right.
Hey there, Jeanette.
Hi,
Did
how
I
do you say your
pronounce
name?
that correct?
Pardon me?
Did I pronounce your name correct?
Yes, I did.
Sorry.
And how do you say your name, please?
Divyansh.
Divyansh. Nice
Yeah.
to have you here. Can I hear your question?
Yeah, could we talk about minting on Cardano blockchain?
We could talk about it. I don't have a lot of depth of expertise, but go ahead and ask your question.
So actually I wanted to mint an NFT collection. Like suppose if I wanted to mint 10,000 NFTs. So that's obviously stupid expensive if I wanted to mint that on Ethereum, right?
Right.
So I was looking for alternatives, so I got to know about Cardano.
Uh
There
huh.
are few apps like nftmaker.io.
Right.
They are pretty cheaper than Ethereum, but still they are expensive because I'm just 16 and I can't bring up that much capital
Okay,
to the
Right.
project.
I have an answer for you.
Go
Yeah.
ahead,
Search
Mariana.
on YouTube this guy Bryce Paul. He's one of the YouTubers, talking on these subjects. He has a video on how to mint without gas fees on OpenSea. And if you figure it out, let us know next week how you did it.
I think what you're talking about is minting on Polygon blockchain. I think that's
Yes,
the Ethereum 2.0 version,
yes,
which lets us mint it gas free, right?
correct.
Yes, I was thinking, but I thought Cardano was better option. But then again, Cardano doesn't have smart contracts yet, right? So I wanted some coder so he could code like write the smart contracts and the metadata and everything. I don't know much about that,
Okay,
but what
so
I've studied is
So I think what you're trying to kind of let me just stop you for a moment. So when
yeah.
Ethereum launched, I was running this angel group that invested in the launch of Ethereum. They kind of created this idea of a smart contract, and it was really the Ethereum network was invented to create an opportunity for dApps at that time, to launch on the network. And in 2017, 18 timeframe, lots of dApps launched because of ICO market was hot and they got funding for a variety of applications, but none of them really took off. And so I would say it was until 2020 when DeFi applications took off on the Ethereum network that actually not much was going on in terms of these smart contract applications. And if you look at the DeFi companies that are now really popular globally, they were only they had value locked of 2% of the Ethereum network in the beginning of 2020. So it wasn't that much. Clearly, by now, that's much larger. 200 billion value locked on Ethereum network, and Cardano, Salon, and all these other projects that are now, spiking up in usage, were basically competitors of Ethereum. So they're trying to be the platform with the smart contract type infrastructure, not necessarily named the same, to create applications on top of it. However, both NFTs and DeFi as applications originated on Ethereum. And this is why you have so much traffic on things like OpenSea in some of these marketplaces. Does that make sense?
Yes, of course I get it. So what do you suggest? What platform should I use?
Well, if you can use Ethereum for very low gas fees, I would start with Ethereum. I don't think that kind of traffic can be replicated really quickly. What I'm seeing, is the latest development in the space. It's not just about launching something like 10,000, 10,000 NFTs that were algorithmically developed. That's been done for a while now. You look at projects like Nafter, which takes you into, it's a Binance smart chain, so the fees are lower, etc. But it takes you into this area of peer-to-peer trading of NFTs and creating a social experience surrounding that. I think that's really brilliant. If you look at Loot, which is, basically trying to create a game without a game using NFTs, that's an interesting project. So you have to think a little bit out of the box. What would you want to do other than just buy and sell NFTs sort of, for profit? What else can you do that's an entertaining experience? And then, it's less of what chain it's on. It's more of who are the people that you can attract to that experience, back to what Jeanette was saying.
I think
Sorry. What that project of game without the game, like you said, what was it? The
It's
name?
called Loot, Loot, and Loot
Huh?
has existed for many, many years, over a decade in gaming. If you have a role playing RPG game, you would win variety of objects as you finish different levels and succeed, and those objects will be placed into something called your loot, what you got out of the game. And these loots were really fascinating when they first came out, but then they became a little bit kind of, you know almost like common in these RPG games. So it's almost like one of the features you had to have, and it was sometimes impacting the gameplay. However, what the founder of Vine has done, he has taken loot concept and kind of turned it upside down. And so they launched Loot, which is basically a bunch of names, you know, in a text-based environment as NFTs. He gave them away for free. He gave 8,000 of these away for free. They were gone in 4 hours, and now they're being resold like it. I think the lowest one is 8 ETH, which is about $25,000. So,
Wow.
so what he's done though is, there were guilds being made out of loot, and there are companies that are developing almost like an open system, open API. They're developing on top of this loot, trying to create games for the loot objects that were already purchased by that particular, loot bag, if you like. So
Wow.
what
Uh-huh.
he's done is he's basically created a next generation of game development on top of a platform that was just a bunch of text. So that to me is breakthrough, those kinds of projects.
another thing you might want to consider also in terms of which token you use is what the token standard is, because some tokens like the Ethereum 1155 and Binance BEP 1155 allow you to group NFTs together and sell them as sort of a single piece. And if you have a lot of NFTs, that is something that you need to take into consideration. I don't know each of the different tokens, whether they all do that, but that is definitely something I would check before I would go out on any of those platforms.
So what happens if you like group them together?
Well, you want to be able to sell your NFTs as a group in some cases. Like the case that we've been hearing about, you
Uh-huh.
want to be able to sell them together. So that's something that you should check out in terms of your token.
Yeah, there's a company that presented at our salon last week that created an atomic swap of NFTs. So basically, at the moment, most of the platforms sell one by one of these NFTs, and the whole loot concept is the only time somebody bundle them, if you'd like. But Atomic Swap company that presented basically comes out of very experienced gaming management team. that you can take a bunch of your NFTs and do an atomic swap with other people of several of them at once. So, and that takes literally minutes versus, a very long labor intensive process on some of these marketplaces.
Again, you are in Ask Us About NFTs, DeFi, and DAOs, and you can ask any question you like. No question is too basic. We would love to answer your nagging questions and thoughts that you've been tucking away. I thought at this point we might talk a little bit about a major change that is coming in this space and will have a big impact on gas fees, and that's the idea of proof of stake versus proof of work. In the past, the idea, well, up until very recently, the idea about how blockchains would be verified was primarily through mining. And mining is a very mathematically intense process. And the one who got the answer the quickest would win. So these mining companies built up banks and banks of very powerful computers to do this process. But now we are moving to what's called a proof of stake. Mariana, can you talk a little bit about that update?
Yeah, so proof of work was the original Satoshi white paper, which allowed people to basically work on the network in order to maintain the network, and that was the first time that kind of a DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, was formed. And it was really the first time that a consensus mechanism was created to be able to work on a decentralized network, to maintain the nodes, to provide any sort of protection from the threats, etc., and to then be paid, using your proof of work, your mining, if you'd like, of the network, in order to actually gain at that point Bitcoin. So when Ethereum launched, they created a new consensus mechanism called proof of stake, and basically it's kind of interesting that proof of stake um, is really similar to proof of work, but it allows for a different kind of projects to be launched on Ethereum based on the staking mechanisms. And this is kind of the way that most of the tokens are launched now, because you have to stake a certain amount on the Ethereum network in order to launch a new project. And it is really a different way of paying the miners, if you like, and it's a different way of creating consensus mechanism. The gas fees are being, basically are the fees that the Ethereum miners get in order to maintain that network through this proof of stake mechanism.
So are gas fees likely to be smaller under proof of stake or just different?
Well, they keep growing. There's two major differences. Are also, is there an infinite or finite supply of tokens? And so on the Ethereum network, there is an infinite supply of tokens. And as the proof of stake mechanism starts to work, and basically based on the traffic that's developed on Ethereum, the gas fees have skyrocketed over the last few years with DeFi, starting to kind of push them up.
Hmm. That's great. Again, I'd like to invite any of you that have any questions, just raise your hand. We'd love to hear from you. I was also wondering, Mariana, if you could talk about what has happened over the last week with the burning of tokens, what that means, and how that affects scarcity.
Yeah, so in an infinite supply like Ethereum, in Ethereum's DAO, there's an infinite supply of tokens, and therefore, the value of Ethereum is not necessarily going as fast as Bitcoin, which has a limited supply. And because of that, the consensus mechanism has created a way of keeping the value of the token higher by burning some of the tokens. So as they get mined through these staking mechanisms, that are paying miners to validate and contribute to management of this network, or to stake the network, the more tokens get minted in that process, and therefore the value stays low. And in order to show the true value of Ethereum network, because most of the world is on Ethereum network at the moment, they started burning the tokens. So that's the supply and demand kind of curve of Ethereum.
Yeah, that's really interesting. There's so much to learn. There's so many little nuances, and it changes literally every day. I wonder if you have any recommendations of places besides Infiom, of course, which is a great source of information, where people can learn about what's changing from day to day.
Well, I think ClubHouse is great tool for learning, especially about NFTs. I was preparing for a presentation at a blockchain conference in China this week, and I spent a lot of time last week in a variety of Clubhouse rooms just to kind of understand, what the collectors and artists' point of view was on the NFT space. And I feel like I've learned from every Clubhouse room. There was really seldom a time that I walked into a room and I didn't learn something. I didn't find someone who was, in my opinion, very knowledgeable about the space. Um, Clearly, Discord channels have been formed with variety of projects and communities. I mean, it really is about finding the right communities at the right time in the space. Because you could have been part of the community that got free loot, for example, if you were in the right rooms at the right time. Um, and what's interesting about that whole loot project for me is the way that they sparked up generation of communities. So now there are people who own certain things that are the same in that loot list, and they created their own guilds surrounding those items. There were companies that purchased the loot to create a game out of it. So I feel that, trying to find the right communities and trying to immerse yourself in learning about the space is the way to do it. It's not going to be something that you can just read online or go to YouTube and just watch YouTube all day and hope that this will actually be sort of the front end of the market development.
Yeah, there's some really innovative things going on for sure. And one of the things that seems to be a common denominator of this NFT space is this FOMO idea, right? And the drops are a big part of that whole FOMO thing, like being in the right place at the right time, at the right moment to take advantage of these drops, or especially free drops, which are exceptionally rare. So
Well, they
go ahead.
seem to be not so rare. It seems, Larva Labs had a free drop of CryptoPunks, and those things are in the hundreds of thousands now. Loot had free drops of the bags, and those things are in the 25,000 plus range. So, you know, Superworld say is selling lots plots of land in Superworld for zero point 0.2 ETH. That's almost like a free drop. ETH was $20 when they did that. So, but now that it's a multiple and multiple and multiple of that amount. So I feel like being on the front end, part of a free drop or part of the drop that's reasonably priced at the beginning, and kind of evaluating the strength of that community. That's, I think, the secret sauce to getting in front of some of these concepts is like, how strong is this community, and do you believe that this community will build basically media surrounding the community, which is what it's about.
Yeah, it's really interesting how we're seeing these communities coming together and how shared spaces are being created for those communities. So you're not just holding a piece of artwork, but your artwork can be part of a game, or it can be part of a platform where you can interact with other people using that technology. And I wonder how long it's going to be until we can actually use NFTs to collaboratively create art. That was something that I've been thinking a lot about. So, can I buy a brush or a color or a sound or a piece of code that I can use in my community to interact with other people, and how that's going to work? Can you see, do you think that's something that'll be coming down the pike?
Yeah, so that's definitely what Loot's doing with games. They're
Mm-hmm.
basically dropping these bags of just items that are just name items, and people have taken these bags and they have created actual graphic representation inside the bag. So all of a sudden you have sort of the beginning of the creative in it, and then these guilds are being formed to create games, as well as there are companies that are using certain bags to create games as well. So it's almost like an open API that Facebook and Apple did many, many years ago, and then a bunch of applications launched on top of it. That's the idea behind Loot. You can see this happening in film. You can see this happening in television. I launched a company called Tonos.com many years ago, which was based on music sampling. So you can see how this can be done in music, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I believe that some of the more successful projects will be collaborative through community, distributed by community, marketed by community, created by community. So it's this whole idea of crowdsourcing taken into the entertainment space.
That's really great. So, if we don't have any questions from the audience, I thought I would just review some of the things we talked about in terms of marketing your NFTs. Even though we covered this a few weeks ago, I think it's worth it to go over some of these issues again. I remember when I wrote my first book, I was so excited when I finished it. I was like, oh, I finished it. I birthed this book. And another author said, that's great. You're about a third of the way done. And it's the same thing with NFTs, right? You create the NFT and you're like, I'm done. No, you're about a third of the way there, because now you have to put it out there in a way that people will find it and people will buy it. So I thought I would just present some of the ideas about how to increase the value of your NFT and be able to sell more NFTs. So, one thing is your drop really should have a separate page, either a standalone page or a separate page on your website that is just associated with your drop. And that's a really good tool. And before you create your NFT, see if you can collect some other NFTs and make friends in the space. Number one, you are going to learn a lot about what it takes to have a successful NFT by buying or collecting some of these NFTs and participating. And another thing is, you will make friends with people that will also maybe be interested in buying your NFT. Of course, you want to use basic social media channels like Instagram or Twitter, especially the hash NFT feed, and follow experts that know what's going on. The same thing for Facebook. You can get out there, and by talking about and following and sharing with people who are experts in the space, you will pick up friends and followers of your own. And there are groups about each kind of subject of NFTs, right? So there are sports oriented NFTs and there are art oriented NFTs and music and so forth, game oriented NFTs. Find groups that are associated with the kind of NFT that you want to create and participate. Don't just listen, pipe up, ask questions, comment, be active in those groups. And that's another way to learn what's going on and to meet people. And also for you to find some of those key influencers that you may want to work with. Create a Discord channel. A lot of work is being done on Discord. It's a free platform to get onto. It's a little different than some of the other kinds of networking platforms. It is interactive in multiple different places. So you can share audio and video and text, and there's aspects of Slack and aspects of many different other kinds of social networks for people who are enthusiasts. And NFT creators tend to hang out in those places. You can also add your drop to places that list them, like NFT Calendar or other organizations. NFTcalendar.io is free. And of course, friends and family. This is a key element for you. Who do you know, and who do they know, and who do they know? Building the plain old word of mouth network can be really, really useful. Also, newsletters. Mariana, why don't you tell them how they can get the Infiom newsletter?
So we create a newsletter every Sunday, and we just aggregate the latest in news. If you're more interested in NFTs and you click on NFTs articles, it's an AI powered newsletter. You'll get more NFT articles. If you're more interested in DAOs, you will get more DAO related articles. And you can sign up on infiom.com, which is INFIOM.com. It's in our on our front page, and easily subscribable free newsletter. We look forward to making you part of the community.
Thanks, Mariana. You can also sometimes find a marketplace that does featured drops, although it's a little more challenging to be listed as a featured drop. If you can get into that space, like Known Origin, Maker's Place, and Nifty Gateway, they'll have announcements about coming drops. And if you can be in one of those announcements, it's a huge boost. Often those are pay to play, so be aware that you may need to pay for that spot. You have to create a great teaser for your NFT. This is mission critical. You have to create something that whets people's appetite. And you want to start with getting them to stop as they browse, right? So you may have the most sexy NFT teaser in the world, but if you don't stop people in their tracks to watch it, it doesn't work. So you really want to think about, how can I grab them in the first 2 or 3 seconds, and how can I hold them to build interest? And if you are not an expert at this kind of trailer work, at this type of preview work, this might be a great opportunity for you to swap with another artist or person in your community that has that particular skill, because it can totally make the difference between a successful NFT sale and a not so successful one. You can find NFT communities where promotion is allowed. Don't promote in NFT communities that don't allow it. You'll get banned, and that's not what you want. But know that many of the NFT communities that allow you to promote expect you to pay for that. So there's pay to play there also. You want to go to metaverse events like Crypto Voxels and Decentraland, where people show off their collections. Hang out in the virtual venues, play, and check out, Altspace VR and Mozilla Hugs. Now, one of the primary ways that people sell their NFTs is by participating with influencers. And these are people who are very well known in the space. And if they give mouth to your project, you are much more likely to be noticed and sell your product. Be aware that these influencers tend to be very selective about who they work with, because they are inundated with requests and they want to know that as quickly as possible that you're legit. Have in mind ahead of time what you are going to offer that influencer. Most influencers are not going to work for free. So either they're going to expect to be paid in cryptocurrency, or they're going to expect to get one or more free NFTs, or they're going to expect to be paid in cash. But have in mind what you are willing to offer, because most of the really good ones don't have time to spend 2 weeks negotiating. And you really need to have your white paper sorted out so they know exactly what's going to be happening with that. But it can be a very successful way to move your NFTs. You just have to do your homework and make sure you know what you're talking about and what you're doing before you work with influencers, because if you don't, they are not likely to pay you any attention on the best case scenario and may sort of block you on their I don't want to talk to you list in the worst case scenario. So that's something to keep in mind. And this is also a great time to possibly collaborate with somebody who's bigger and more famous than you. This is a time and tested method of getting started, is find somebody who's very successful and get them interested in some aspect of what you're doing, especially if you're doing something unique or new that could help them expand their offering. And then partner up, and that's a great way to do it. Or you can also work with a charity and ask them to promote. So if you give a percentage of the proceeds of your NFT to a charity, this is another way to do it. They they will promote it because it's in their best interest. Although you may have a challenge with many charities, they tend to be very traditional. So not all charities are going to be ready to work with you, but it's something to consider. And you can also do traditional public relations, write a press release, go through help a reporter out, or Medium, or pay a PR person to help you do this. Although, unless you have a really high value drop, this is probably not the place to start in terms of your where you want to spend your cash. But helpareporterout.com, haro.com, is a free site, and this is where reporters ask questions that they want experts to answer. And I have gotten coverage in Reader's Digest and the Wall Street Journal just by answering specific questions as they come through on Help a Reporter Out. But you need to know how to answer those questions in a way that is very comfortable for reporters to just kind of cut and paste, and how to be succinct and how to get your point across quickly. So, in any case, you really need to think about the promotion strategy, the sales strategy, how you're going to sell this thing even before you start to build your NFTs. A lot of people build their NFTs and then try to figure out how to sell and market it. And oftentimes it leads to heartache because a few tweaks on the front end could have made the sales cycle a lot easier. Okay, so I just talked a whole bunch, and I want to encourage you guys also to come back and ask some more questions now that I dropped all that info about promoting your NFTs. Anybody got a question?
While
I
I
think
think of questions, just wanted to say thank you. That's really a lot of amazing stuff. I'm writing it down.
Yeah, and I think what's really important, Jeanette, is this idea of PR. Um, when I launched companies, over the last 2 decades in the venture space, we talked about getting the buzz, going for the company.
Right.
And currently, I think that buzz is almost 24/7 in this space,
Yep.
and getting any sort of legitimate PR is more important. And you were so good with that help a reporter out site. You turned me on to it. But there's a real, I would say, knowledge there that you have about pitching PR without doing the overall PR strategy, that would cost you a few $1,000s a month and all
Right.
that kind of stuff. You can literally just kind of answer, because all reporters at the moment are interested in NFTs.
Uh huh.
Maybe give us like some little samples of what interesting things would compel a reporter to write about NFTs other than price.
So I think reporters are very interested in how artists are using this as a new way to reach customers, and how new types of NFTs are being created, like Mariana was talking about loot. And you don't necessarily need to talk about your own experience, although that is the most compelling answer, usually, is talking about something that you've done yourself, right? This is how I created this NFT and this is what happened. But there are also opportunities as a secondary person saying, these are some of the things that I've seen in the marketplace, because You have to understand that your reporter may not think about NFTs very much. Maybe they've thought about it for an hour in their whole life. So something that seems kind of elementary to you might be not so elementary for them. The key, though, is to make sure that when you find the questions, I mean, it seems basic, but answer the question. If you just give them a sales pitch, they're going to blacklist you and you're not going to get that opportunity. So if they say something like, what are some new ways that NFTs are being created? And you say, I have an NFT about blah, 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 and that's it. It's not really going to answer their question. I also tend to do things in numerical lists or bullet points that are very short and succinct and easy to cut and paste, right? Because these guys are very busy. So instead of saying what's hot in NFTs, I'll say the top 5 things you need to know about NFTs right now, and then I'll bullet them. And they won't take all 5, but very often they'll take one and they'll cite me and they'll put a link to my website there. And that's massive free marketing, especially if you're in, a major publication or you're on television on CNN or one of these places, which are all things that I've been able to do with this process. Okay, Yana and Gigi, we have 2 people that have joined us. Questions or comments from the 2 of you?
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, go ahead, Yana.
Oh, Jeanette, nice to meet you. Thank you for an opportunity to ask some questions. My first question is about searching some auditory, maybe someone who is very exactly suitable for when you start a new NFT project. I want to search for my auditory, and where do I have to start to do this? Maybe it will be Instagram, maybe it is Facebook. Where can I find the most relevant people to join my community?
And you have sounds and musics?
Oh, musics.
Okay. So start with a Google search. I mean, it's really basic and elementary, but start with a Google search, and that will help you find some groups that focus on that, and that'll also help you find some people who have written articles about that. Very often, that is a great place. If you follow them, they will have people that are interested in the same things in their Instagram feeds and so forth. So it's really basic, but that is the best way that I've found is find the experts and follow them, and they will lead you to the communities where you need to go.
Thank you for answering question.
Of
And
course.
also the second question I have is about some loud names in NFT. Are there some people who are the most famous influencers in this sphere, which I can follow and read maybe something useful from them and join their community and take some auditory from them?
Adrian is often on our Clubhouse, and I would definitely look for her. She has done a lot in the NFT space and has been at it a while. So that is one person I would look for on Clubhouse. She's here almost all the time, and it's ADRYNN. There are also a lot of YouTube influencers, and that's a good place to look as well.
Oh, can you repeat, please?
ADRYNN.
Oh, thank you so much.
Gigi, did you have a question or a comment?
Hi, Jeanette. Hi, Mariana.
Hi.
My name is Gina. I just kind of wanted to, I know you were closing out,
That's
but I
okay. Take your
wanted to
time.
say thank you so much for hosting this room. I just have been taking notes, and everything that you have said today has been really helpful.
Oh, good.
I've kind of been like on this journey, like by myself in a way, like I'm just compiling my own research and figuring things out for myself. Just learning more about the space and the crypto wallet, Bitcoin, everything, just kind of, it's kind of like a hobby for me in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but I'm having some amazing ideas, and just everything that you were talking about, Mariana, saying like how you can combine an NFT with like an experience and how to bring the social collaboration. I just think it's really exciting. This is like just a really exciting new space, and I'm just learning about it, and I thank you for your room.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for coming, Gina.
Yeah, I will definitely be back. So I kind of stumbled on your room today. I just kind of got on Clubhouse. I actually wanted to speak about NFTs or, listen to something. So it's perfect. So thank you so much. And I will definitely be back. You said you do these weekly?
Every week on Tuesday at 10
Oh,
o'clock.
okay, 10 o'clock. Okay, you're in California.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, PST, 10 o'clock PST.
Okay, yes. I'm in Miami. I know there's a bit of a NFT space here, community in Miami. So,
Mm,
I'm just, you
yeah,
know, networking, meeting people, and getting
well,
my just knowledge and meeting, getting my foot in
yeah.
the door.
One
It's
thing I
exciting.
will one thing I will strongly encourage for all of you is to accept that there's a ton to learn here. This is
Yes,
not just a 5 minute watch a video and I understand it. I've been studying it for many years and I'm still learning
that's
every
cool.
day. And once you get it learned, it changes. So um, you really need to commit some time and energy to understanding this space, but also give yourself some grace that you're not going to figure it all out at once. And that's okay.
And to Yana's point, of how to find your community, um, the way I find my community is I actually listen to other people in some of these rooms, whether it's Clubhouse or, some Zoom presentations at conferences, and I find people that I believe will move the ecosystem forward. Yeah, that's how we got a lot of our speakers for this room and a lot of our speakers for a room tomorrow at 1:30 on creating unicorns. I try to keep them involved in the community and in these discussions as we go forward, and I learn from them every day. Similarly, in Clubhouse, in many of these NFT rooms, I have found people that I now follow because I believe that they have something interesting to share. They have done breakthrough things with NFTs, breakthrough things with next generation companies, or there's some attorneys I follow in the space that are thinking through breakthrough issues in getting the legal contracts executed correctly. There's some collectors I follow that have a very good point of view on how to create a collection. So you will find, Yana, as you go through these rooms and these experiences, these people that you want in your community will sort of identify themselves based on what resonates with you with what they're saying, and that's how you sort of create your own group.
Thank you, Mariana. Completely agreed with you.
Well, thank you so much, everybody. The last call for questions and or comments.
Well, thank you, Jeanette, for doing all this work, heavy duty lifting on going through literally a how to primer every week on NFTs, DeFi, and DAOs. There is clearly so much going on with NFTs, so we focused the last couple of weeks on NFTs. We should probably focus on the community and this whole idea of DAOs as
Yes.
next week. What do you think? Okay.
I think we should think about DAOs, and I think we should also talk about fractional ownership next week.
That would be great because that's happening. Basically, the the tokenization has gotten so granular with DeFi that it's almost like NFTs were necessary development. This sort of unique connection between a digital and physical asset with a token. And now that these NFT projects are getting to multi million dollars in sales, now the fractionalization of these projects is happening, so we're going back to tokenization. It's almost like a full circle ecosystem that
Yeah.
keeps propelling itself.
Yeah. The centralization of decentralized finance.
It's quite fascinating how this is
Yeah.
developing,
That
but we're
sounds
grateful it
really
exists.
that sounds really interesting, and looking forward to that really. And Jeanette and Mariana, I I think are not just me, but all the people in this room. We want to thank you for this really great format that you have here because, in many rooms here on Clubhouse, there is often some uneasy silence and just no topic or anything. And you work together, and it's really good dynamics and interesting to hear all this. Thank you very much, and looking forward to more rooms with you.
Thank you so much, Yuri. Okay, guys, we're going to wrap it up right there, but thank you so much for listening, and we will be back with our more advanced room tomorrow at, what time is that, Mariana? 1:30?
The room tomorrow at 1:30 is if you want to create a venture in the space. Here we did, we actually talk about projects, but if you want to create a next generation company in the space, it's called Create Unicorns with NFTs, DeFi, and DAOs, and we host that 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for an hour tomorrow, Wednesdays. So see you guys there.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Bye.
Nice
Good to meet you all. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye bye now.